Good afternoon. The November 6th WVU Faculty Senate meeting will come to order. We do have a quorum. There was a question, but we do have a quorum. The minutes of the October 9th Faculty Senate meeting were distributed as a link in your agenda. Are there any corrections? Thank you. Hearing none. The minutes from the October 9th meeting are approved as written. The next item on the agenda is the review and approval of honorary degree candidates for the May 2024 commencement. To avoid prematurely revealing the nominees, the Senate will convene an executive session to discuss the nominees. Do I have a motion to move to executive session? Thank you, Scott. Do I have a second? Thank you. All those in favor of moving into executive session, please raise your hand. Please lower your hands. Any opposed? Very well. The Faculty Senate is now in executive session. Pro session, Dave, you'll let the visitors know they can return. The next item on the agenda is my report. And I'd like to begin by thanking President Gee for addressing the University Assembly with his State of the University address on October the 23rd. And President Gee, we look forward to working with you on the agenda that you outlined. Regarding reviews of the non-academic areas of the university, I've been informed by President Gee and Provost Reed that we will receive the results of those reviews after they are presented to the BOG next week on November the 17th. And I'd like to thank the President and Provost for hitting the deadline. And it's not coming to us here by the deadline, but they have hit the deadline, but do just want to present the changes they're going to be telling us about to the BOG first, which we understand. So really appreciate that. And Provost Reed, your team has stuck to the timeline with such precision. And it's not been a comfortable process for anyone, but I do appreciate that there was at least that level of predictability. The event formerly known as the Leadership Luncheon and now called the Coffee Council met for the first time on October the 27th. We had a very constructive conversation between the curriculum and general education committee leadership. And Lou, who held the administrative chair for that time. I think we had a lot of good outcomes from that meeting. The next Coffee Council is scheduled for Friday, December the 1st with inclusion and diversity and faculty welfare committees. On October the 27th, the Faculty Senate leadership team also met with faculty leaders Cynthia Hall from Beckley and Jay Badenhoop from Kaiser to discuss their upcoming campus reviews and share lessons learned from our end and offer the Senate support. They shared structural changes that are already happening on their campuses, and we discussed some of the similarities and differences of their process and what we've encountered here. My understanding is that the first review meeting has already happened at was it Beckley, Lou? Kaiser and Beckley last Thursday and Friday, so their processes are underway. Regarding Potomac State, I would now like to recognize Senator Donna Ballard online, who will provide a statement on the recent faculty action there. Donna?
Good afternoon. Greetings from the Eastern Panhandle. On Friday, October 27th, the Potomac State College Faculty Assembly passed a resolution of no confidence in the senior advisor, Brady Whipke, to our campus president, Chris Gilmer. Campus morale has dropped significantly since Brady joined our campus in February, and there are several issues that increase this drop in morale. After inspection, we have corroborated many of those, leading to the development of the resolution. As the faculty group, the resolution, discussion, and a 31-to-1 vote during faculty assembly meeting, we feel that the best interests of our students are not being met with this person in a position of authority. And if you read the resolution, there are many of the issues are of concern. I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Any questions for Donna? Yes, Scott.
Scott Critchley, Everly. So Donna, I saw that covered in the news recently. What's been the reaction on campus since this vote occurred? I haven't seen any follow-up story. Like what has either the administration in Kaiser or just kind of the general campus reaction been? Thank you.
No problem. The campus president, Chris Gilmer, has come back with a statement of 100% support of Mr. Whipke, against the wishes and discussion from the faculty. Several faculty are meeting with other people, mostly within the campus, to see to sort out the truth from rumors, to do the best we can on behalf of all faculty, staff, and students.
Sure, Provost.
And Scott, in terms of our administration, we are meeting with faculty. We have been meeting with faculty. Paul Kreider was on the campus on Thursday, met with several faculty and is meeting with a group tonight online to better understand the situation. And we will be working with President Gilmer on addressing the issue.
Dave?
Dave Hauser, Everly. Donna, if I might ask, are you asking this body, the Senate, to take any action or make a statement or anything like that, or just sort of waiting to see how things play out now?
Thank you. No, we are not asking for any action to be taken by the full Senate. We were simply asked to provide you with a statement of what is happening on our campus.
Other questions or comments for Donna? Thank you for sharing with us, Donna. And, you know, we are your Senate too, so we are here if you all need any support.
Thank you so much.
We're continuing to ask for volunteers for the University PNT Advisory Council. This is about to become a crisis. We have 4 volunteers so far, and there are over 160 of our peers' files that need to be reviewed in the spring. The estimate or the number asked for was 16. We're nowhere near that. And I also need to say, I think 3 of the 4 are Faculty Senate Committee chairs. So thank you to those of you who've already volunteered. We need some help. And I've been making some personal asks. I haven't broken through with that yet, but I think that's where we're at is we really need you all in your leadership role to ask some of your colleagues to please serve their colleagues in this capacity. And again, I know there's a lot of hard feelings right now. There's a lot of grief and anger and a lot of feelings, but our colleagues need us. And so please, anything you can do to try and recruit some folks would be very helpful. And I will say, leadership team, we volunteer, but we can't serve because of our roles. So, I mean, any of you who have a little extra space, we need help. And again, that's for our colleagues and for the people who've already volunteered. 4 people just cannot reasonably review 160 plus files. So anything you can do would be much appreciated. Cindy, online, you have a question?
No, I don't. I couldn't get my hand down.
Does get stuck up there sometimes. Andy Kent online, please.
Yeah, hi, this is Andy Kent from WVU Tech down in Beckley. I was curious, can regional campus people volunteer for this PNT as well?
Yes.
Okay, thank
Love
you.
to have. So, send, an email to Chris Staples. And if you can't find that, you can just send it to me and I'll get it to him.
All right,
Thank you.
fantastic. Thank you.
Really appreciate that. Maybe you could scrape up a couple more on your campus as well. Get some friends to participate. I do want to just say Corey has added a new link for programs and courses under review, which is something faculty have been asking for, so that sometimes we get surprised when curriculum committee reports out and it's the first time some of us have heard about what's being reviewed. We do get that link in our agenda, but we understand that may not be the moment people can review. So at any given time, you can now go in under the curriculum link on the links bar at the top of the Faculty Senate main page, click on curriculum, the place you may have gone before for other curriculum related items. And there's now a place in there where you can find all the programs and courses currently under review by the committee. You can go ahead then, if you have any concerns, and contact the curriculum committee at that point to share any of your questions or your comments or concerns with them, so they can deal with that prior to bringing anything to Senate. We feel like this is maybe getting more important as we've got our new budget model. We've got, more incentive for people to develop their own courses that may have duplication, and other concerns. So we do encourage you to keep an eye on that and to be aware of what's coming. As you may be aware, the PEIA Finance Board is currently holding public hearings across the state to receive feedback on their plan year 2025 proposal, which includes a 10.5% premium increase for employees. Their future plans also include similar and higher increases for 2026, 27, and 28. And I'm sure you share my concern that additional financial pressure on faculty and the university at any time is not a good thing, but particularly this could be extra difficult at this moment with everything we're dealing with the budget and academic transformation. The meeting in Morgantown is this Thursday at the Holiday Inn. Registration begins at 5. The hearing begins at 6. I'm planning to attend and hopefully be able to make some comments on behalf of faculty. And I encourage any of you whose schedule permits to attend. I don't know that we've had a much of a showing at these things in the past, but I think that means we might get more attention by showing this time. And it may be a small thing in the long run, but for some folks, it's a very big thing financially. And it's one thing we maybe can do to take some strain off. Our next Senate meeting is December 4th here at 3:15. And that concludes my report. Any questions for me? Thank you. The next item on our agenda is President Gee.
Frankie, I have a question for you.
Excuse me. Yes, Scott.
And actually, it'll be interestingly timed. The event in Kaiser raises something, and that's, of course, 2 months ago, this campus's faculty voted no confidence in the leadership of President Gee. Not only did it do so, it did so by an astonishing margin. Like, if you think about like the historic blowouts of world history, Reagan Mondale had nothing on this vote. The 49ers versus Denver in the 90s had nothing on this vote. So hearing Donna say that, well, nothing has happened at all in Kaiser after a 31-1 vote makes me wonder, what do our current Senate leaders, our faculty leaders, what are they doing to make it clear to the administration week in, week out, month in, month out, that remains the position of the faculty? Like, it's inefficient for us to have another assembly. We're not going to do that. There'd be no reason to do that. The president's made his point of view clear. But what are you, and I hate to say you specifically, Frank, but like you, Stan, Diana, anybody else who's like regularly meeting with the president, doing to remind them of that? Because we've seen very little to sort of get a sense that the administration cares. But what you're saying about the PNT committee shows it. I mean, the disconnect is not going to get better. And there's 600 more days on his contract. So what are you specifically doing to kind of continually make it clear that the faculty has lost faith in Gordon Gee?
Well, I appreciate your question. It's fine for you to direct it at me. First of all, I don't think President Gee needs reminding of that. I feel pretty sure he is aware of that. I think the position we've taken is to constantly try and pursue accountability relative to the things we've asked for. And I will say, President Gee said to me last week, you keep pushing the ball down the field. And I think that's our role right now. I don't think, and this is speaking for myself, not the entire leadership team, but I don't think it's my role to berate President Gee and beat him over the head with a no confidence vote. President Gee and the board have made their decisions with that. They've been very clear about that. I don't see that gaining anything as far as the work we're trying to do. And perhaps it's a question you should ask President Gee relative to his response to it. Relative to Kaiser, I can tell you in executive session that I asked President Gee in executive session in front of everyone else to please talk to President Gilmer and make very clear that the faculty had spoken very loudly, more loudly than we spoke here. They have, in case some of you don't know, I don't know the exact number, but it's something like 35, 37 faculty. So when you say 31 to 1, they had 32 of their faculty present of the 35 or 37. By the way, a number we didn't get close to in terms of percentages showing up, because that's got to be in the 90-some percent. I don't know, we need one of our math people to do that for us, but that's what I'm doing. And I've also been in communication with Kaiser, and I don't know that it's our position to preempt anything or do something on their behalf. That seems maternalistic in my mind. I've said to them on a few occasions in contact with their leadership that we stand ready to help them. I invited Donna here today to make that statement. They didn't ask to do that, but I felt like you all had a right to know what was going on directly from the faculty who are there. And I think, you heard from Dave asking the question, and I asked Donna earlier, is there a motion or any action you want to bring? So I think at this point, they're trying to see what's going to happen. And, we stand ready to support them. We are their Senate. Any other questions for me? Thank you, President Gee.
Well, thank you, Frankie. Let me just say that I can say that Frankie and the Senate, we meet regularly. And as a leadership, and that they keep reminding me of a number of things, which we do talk about very seriously. And we have responded seriously. And so I just want to remind you of that, as a matter of fact. So, we obviously have had our agreements and disagreements, but what we all agree on is that there is an importance of what this university is doing. And I feel very compelled to say that it is an important time for the institution as we're going through much of the transitions that we perceive to be on our agenda. So I appreciate that. I, by the way, want to note that I thought that the passage that you just had of 5 outstanding candidates for the honorary degree, those are important signals to our constituents that we are very serious about the work that they do on behalf of our university, and the work that they do to bring recognition to our institution. And in that regard, let me just say that in the past few days, we've had examples of faculty and students fulfilling that vision on a world stage. Duncan Lorimer and Mara McLaughlin are receiving of course, the Shaw Prize, and that is often described as the Nobel Prize of the East. Doctors Lorimer and McLaughlin, both professors in physics and astronomy, as you well know, helped to discover fast radio bursts. I have taken them out to dinner a couple of times to explain it to me, and I still don't understand, but it is intense, unexplained pulses of energy coming from billions of light years away. Since they discovered the first one in 2007, several thousand of these mysterious cosmic flashes have been spotted. The Shaw Prize, of course, reaffirms the magnitude of their discovery in addition to the wealth of research they have contributed to astronomy and to our profile as an R1 university. And I'm very proud of what they have accomplished. Meanwhile, I met today with Azim Khan, who earned recognition as a finalist for the Rhodes Scholarship. Azim, for those of you who don't know, is passionate about public service, is a political science major with the dual minor in business cybersecurity and philosophy. Earlier this year, he became the university's 26th Truman Scholar. An honors college student, he is the co-chair of the Mountaineer Fentanyl Task Force and a member of the Presidential Student Ambassadors, and he previously served in student government. And Azim's leadership activity shows the opportunities our university has and is open for students. And I might note that I did, when speaking with Azim today, he had such wonderful things to say about the faculty and his discipline that have supported him, and I want to make it clear that I appreciate that very much. Because we want all young people to have such opportunities, we have invested in services to support first-generation students. In fact, I'm meeting with a whole group of first-generation students on Thursday. We have more than 4,000 first-generation students on the Morgantown campus alone, and we are currently celebrating them with First Gen Week activities. So again, I just want to note that I am very grateful to our faculty and staff for mentoring and supporting these students who often face unique challenges navigating college. So finally, I'd like to update you on our latest efforts to transform our university and increase its operational efficiency. We will be reorganizing the Strategic Initiatives Unit as Rob Alsop plans to leave his role as Vice President effective November 18th. My intent is not to appoint a replacement. With my leadership team, which we have been working on for over the past week, I'm reviewing the needs of the university as well as resources required to best serve the campus community, and I will share more as decisions are finalized. But we are in the process of looking at how we can best reorganize that part of the university, and I want to make that clear. So saying that, I will welcome any questions that anyone may have. David?
President Gee, Dave Hauser, Eberly College. I want to revisit an issue that we've gone over a couple of times, but maybe we can finally put a nail in it. There was some debate about executive compensation, senior administrative compensation over time, that people felt that some folks should take a little bit of pay cut in order to sort of show some solidarity to some of the faculty who were leaving. You and I have been here a while. I remember the COVID times. There was many people in the senior administration took a pay cut at that time in order to help us make it through a difficult time for the university. In what way is the transformation process different from the COVID process?
Well,
Why
we did,
Why are these two different
yeah.
scenarios?
Yeah, thank you, David. We did, senior administration did take a reduction in pay during COVID, as did the athletic department. So what I've done is I've asked the senior leaders of the university to reduce their salaries up to 10% voluntarily, and the majority have done so, and that was done several months ago when I asked them to do that. So that has taken place, and we will keep that in place until the university rights itself financially, David. So I appreciate that. Any other questions? So thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, President Gee. Provost?
So I'm going to talk about academic transformation. Everybody's favorite topic. So we have completed our program portfolio review. The reduction in force process is completed. The due process hearings have been held, and the decisions have been finalized, and the letters have been sent to faculty. Again, I want to acknowledge that this is just very difficult and painful for our campus community, and particularly for those individuals who have been impacted by this process. We are continuing to focus on supporting those individuals who will be leaving the institution. We are working with the the outplacement provider Career Minds. Based on faculty that we have received, feedback we've received from faculty, we sent an email out last week to those individuals who will be leaving the institution, reminding them of the services provided by Career Minds, as well as reminding them about certain other things, including the fact that faculty do need to opt into the process. When we started this, I had said to you that Career Minds would reach directly out to those individuals, but there was concern about privacy and folks not necessarily wanting to be contacted. And so it is now an opt-in process, which we reminded folks about. We also reminded faculty that Career Minds will work with their spouses as well to find placement for both the faculty and the spouses. And that we will be working with faculty who received non-renewal notices this past year as well. They also will work with staff who have lost their positions over the past year. Through the RIF process. We also, based on feedback, asked them that if a faculty member contacts them, would they do some research on that individual before contacting them so they know a little bit about that person and can provide more effective service to them. As well as we confirmed that they do have experience placing faculty in academic positions. But I will say that most of our faculty have their own professional networks and their own conferences, and they know they may be better suited to find placement in their field, but that does not mean they cannot and should not utilize the services of Career Minds. And so we will continue to message those individuals. Career Minds is also holding, based on that feedback, 2 webinars, informational sessions for folks who want to sign up for it. The timeline and process for program review at the regional campuses will be announced at the latest at the November 17th board meeting. But we would like to, if possible, release that information next week. But November 17th at the latest. I know folks on those campuses and at Extension are anxious about that process. We are wrapping up our review of the academic support units with the libraries and the Teaching and Learning Commons. And we are working with both of those units. We should have plans to review at the beginning of December and to be able to release the findings and the results by mid-December at the latest. And then finally, the thing I wanted to just respond once more to Scott Critchlow, your question about the Kaiser campus. I do want to say that the vote of no confidence was on October 27th, which was less than 2 weeks ago. And so since then, we have been to the Kaiser campus. We've met with faculty. We're meeting with faculty tonight. We have met with the president. We're meeting with him again this week. So it is a personnel issue that we need to explore, and we have to do so carefully. But I want to assure you that we are very much concerned and will be looking into this. And that is all I have for my report today. Any questions?
Hi, Provost Reed. Jenna Martin, College of Law. I was just wondering if you happen to know the appellate reversal rate of the appeals that went up? In other words, how many of the appeals resulted in the board reviewing, reversing their previous position?
So the board, or are you talking about the
Excuse
due
me,
process?
The due process, during the due process.
Well, that was, I believe Stephanie Taylor is online and can answer that, or one of the, or either Tracy or Chris from my office. But I want to remind you, Jenna, these were not appeals. This was a due process. This was to make sure that we had followed the criteria, and to ensure that, the process had not missed anything, but these were not appeal hearings.
Okay, so if I understand it correctly, people were riffed. They had the right to sort of put in the position of due process to say this might have violated my due process property rights, and then the hearing was the result of that, or the hearing then produced whatever result. Is that correct?
Yeah, we called the hearing, it's actually a committee, and it was, I think I would like to maybe have Stephanie clarify that.
Mary Ann, why don't you? I'm sorry, everybody. I am, I'll get on video, but I don't look very pretty today. I'm feeling, well, I don't know where my video went. I'm a little under the weather, so apologize for it, for not being there in person. So, Jenna, to answer your question, the purpose of the due process meetings were the opportunity for the faculty to be heard, about the RIF before it was finalized. As we talked about previously, it consisted of 1 to 2 representatives from the provost office and 1 to 2 representatives from the dean's office. It was primarily the faculty's meeting. They had an opportunity to talk through why they believe they shouldn't have been riffed. Some people did PowerPoint, some people had documentation that they submitted. In terms of the reversal rate, I believe that there was one that we worked through a different path, and the person is not ultimately going to be riffed. But I think the remainder stayed as is for those purposes.
And can I ask how many people took advantage of the due process hearing?
25.
Thank you.
It's either 25 or 26, so sorry about that.
Hello, Dan.
Hello. Dan Totska, Eberly College. Gonna try, see where I can get this. So for the outplacement firm and the other sort of resources that have been made available for those who have been laid off or otherwise are leaving the university, do we know, or are the contracts for that or information on how much is being paid for those services public at this time, or has that information been released?
We're certainly not hiding it. I'm not sure if it lives on our website. Stephanie, do you know? I'm asking you just because.
I don't know, but I don't think it lives on any website that I'm aware of, Mary Ann, but it is a publicly available contract. I'm sure that we could provide that to whoever would want it.
And I'm sorry, I don't remember off the top of my head, but I know it's in the range of 100,000. It might be a little bit more, but it's around that
You
range.
don't have all the numbers memorized.
I don't at the back of my head, but I can certainly
The
provide that.
math means. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
and we're
that'd
not, and there's nothing we would hide about it, and it's based on serving a certain number of people.
Yeah, I think that'd be helpful to have on the
Absolutely.
transformation website. Thanks.
Yep.
Dave
Dave?
Hauser, Eberly College. Could you talk a bit more about the research the outplacement service is doing about the faculty who have been riffed? Is it a Google search? Where is it? What are they doing with it? Is the university providing any PNT documents or other sort of privileged information to them? What are they doing with it once they're done with it, et cetera?
Here's what I can tell you. Melissa Latimer is really our point person on that, and she's gone today. But what I can tell you is it is absolutely between the faculty member and Career Minds. And so when I say research, what faculty told us is they didn't want Career Minds to just meet with them cold. They wanted them to do a little Google and find out who this person was and what their areas of expertise are. And but there's no personnel information that is being shared with them other than what the individual faculty member shares with them. We're not involved in that process at all. It's on the faculty page? They were looking at their faculty page on the website. Yeah. No, this is actually just something that faculty said they wanted to know that that this company would actually care a little bit about them as individuals. Yes, Rose.
Hi, Rose Casey, Department of English, Eberly College. I am wondering, it was an interesting surprise and not an unpleasant one to hear that some senior administrators have volunteered to take 10% pay cuts. Certainly, it was a surprise because I know that within this body we have asked about that multiple times. So it was surprising to hear that happened apparently months ago and we'd not heard about it. But
I
again,
think the desire, and I think President Gee misspoke. It was fairly
Oh.
recently, and we've agreed to do it. Yeah.
super helpful. Okay, I appreciate that clarification. My question is, who is taking a pay cut at the senior administration level, and what sum does that amount to? I know from the recent Eberly Chairs Department that we are still short of the required amount that we need to meet in the so-called transformation process. So it will be helpful to know who is taking a cut and what that amounts to. Thank you.
I think President Gee has been pretty clear that it's up to the individuals and that we are not publicizing this, and that it is up to us. I mean, I'm taking a pay cut. And I'm sure anyone else who wants to say that they are can do that, but that is what he has said. Anything else? Okay.
Provost, may I just ask, we're going to get all the final numbers in writing relative to all the non-returning faculty and by rank and et cetera that we've discussed that will be coming soon? You had said that once the due process hearings were complete, that we would get some of the metrics relative to who was non-returning by rank, by position, et cetera, all those categories we talked about. Okay. And so, okay, all right. And I would like to say, we would like that to represent all of the, I believe it was 147 or 49 that came out of academic transformation. So to include the voluntary resignations and voluntary retirements. Great. Thank you. Okay, the next report is from on going to be on campus carry and safety committee. And I believe Dean Ferris and Sharon, are you joining? And Travis, is it the whole trifecta here? Okay, wonderful.
Thank you very much. And also thank you very much for allowing us to come to speak about the Campus Carry, Campus Safety initiative. Late last spring, President Gee charged Sharon Martin and I to address campus safety as it pertains to our faculty, staff, and students. As Sharon and I had a number of, I'll say, pre-meetings, we discussed how best to address it and how best to break it down. And we've broken it down into sort of 4 different areas or subcommittees that we have put together and have begun their work. And so what I'll start to do is work through those 4 subcommittees so you understand what those subcommittees will be doing, what areas they will be responsible for, and those goals, and then what they will be doing afterwards. Thank you very much. Thank you. And so this first slide is the overarching steering committee. We have a number of representatives from across campuses, and we also have student representatives on our committee. We will look at safety concerns. The steering committee will make recommendations to the appropriate areas of campus as well as off campus, because you'll see just a little bit, we're not looking at just things that are occurring on campus. And then we'll also have some frequent communication as the committees start to produce their work and as we move forward. The two of the committees you see right here, one is the Campus Carry, and Travis Mollahan is serving as our chair of that. He will be up shortly to discuss the work that they will do, but that will be focusing specifically on the legislation that passed this last legislative session in the spring, but takes effect July 1, 24 on campuses all across, not just WVU, but across the state. We will have a group that's looking at our off-campus areas, and that's the Morgantown Partnership. Ron Justice and Aaron Newmeyer are chairing this particular committee, and we'll be looking at our community partners, in particular looking at the downtown area, those areas that immediately surround our campus, and in some ways, as we assess and look at other things that are going on around our community that impact our students in particular, we'll take a look at what we can do, again, to advance safety for our students. We have a campus safety group, which I'll say will be focusing with our on-campus safety. Carrie Showalter, who is the Assistant Dean for Students and works in the campus and community life area, is chairing that committee. She's going to work and look to develop solutions to some of our on-campus issues. I know we've got some great partners in student government who've been partners with us. We, for a number of years, do a number of safety walks on and off campus. So we'll continue to make sure that we're listening to our students as well as other committee members. And the last area will be that communication group. So is Campus Carry as the Morgantown Partnership and the Campus Safety, again, produce work, April Call and team that is assembled that will be coordinated with April, will then share that information across campus in a variety of ways, whether they're conversations, whether they're social media, whether it's press releases, but April will help us get the messaging out as appropriate. As I mentioned, we have the steering committee. We hope to meet regularly, and we are meeting regularly, probably every month or so, to receive updates from each of the other committees. The campus safety group will probably meet every 4 to 6 weeks, again, as they look and address and understand what our current issues are, as you know, they constantly evolve. And our Campus Carry is the one that will meet more frequently, especially initially, as we look at all the needs and the requirements of the law, what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do, because we do have that July 1st deadline. So we will certainly, I won't take this away from April, but we know that if we promote too far in advance that it gets lost. So we will start talking much more about this as we go into spring semester, and then certainly over the summer and as students and faculty and staff return in the fall. And with that, Sharon, I'll ask you to come up and talk about communication.
Thank you, Corey. Just a few notes from a communication perspective, how we'll approach this. As the committees do begin to do their work and share information, we'll share that out through both e-news and U-News. So both faculty, staff, and students will get the information. We will have a separate communication plan around Campus Carry as Travis and his committee continue to do their work. As information comes forward, we'll make sure that we're getting that information out to the campus as well. And just a reminder that at safety.wvu.edu, all information around safety is housed there, and everything that we do out of these 4 committees will also be housed there as well. And with that, I'm going to turn over to Travis to talk more about the work that the Campus Carry group in particular is doing.
Thank you, Sharon. Good afternoon, everyone. So as Sharon indicated, a Campus Carry subcommittee has been formed under the Campus Safety Steering Committee. I am chairing that committee. We held our first meeting on Halloween. We have about 35 members on the committee, and we will meet regularly through July 1, 2024, which is the date that Senate Bill 10 becomes law. The charge of the Campus Carry Subcommittee is fivefold, although I'm sure we'll come up with other things that we need to tackle. But first, how do we implement this bill for our 3 campuses with variances across those campuses, given our size, our student population, et cetera? We will project costs. So what will it take to implement based on the decisions that are made? Our timeline, both for implementation, for communications, et cetera. As Corey and Sharon said, we'll have a separate communication plan specifically for Campus Carry, but we will also fold a lot of those recommendations and actions into the overall safety committee. And then finally, the Campus Carry Subcommittee as a group will decide on recommendations to send to the steering committee for final approval. So as you can see, the Campus Carry Subcommittee is represented by a cross-section of our campus and our programs, including our students, our faculty, our staff, the Caruth Center, the CAC, Extension, Facilities, General Counsel, Government Relations, Health Sciences, our hospital system, our libraries, the Provost's Office, Research, Student Life, Student Housing, Talent and Culture, University Relations, UPD, Visitors Center, and our Beckley and our Kaiser campus. These are the specific language from the law. Some of it's a little in depth, but I'll just give a very high briefing on what exceptions are contained in the law. So first of all, this is for concealed carry only, pistols and revolvers, excuse me. Only applies to areas that are under our custodial possession, not areas that are rented, leased, or under exclusive agreement for occupant and use of a private entity. And then specifically as to the exceptions in the law, so you can see there that any event or organized meeting that is taking place in a stadium, arena, or venue with a capacity of more than 1,000. So 1,000 don't have to be in attendance, but it just has to have a capacity of more than 1,000. In the secure area of any building used by law enforcement, so our UPD, at a daycare facility on campus, in an area that has adequate security measures in place, and the bill defines those adequate security measures. Rooms where disciplinary proceedings are being held, so those are both student and employee disciplinary proceedings. In sole occupancy offices, so those are defined in the legislation as a room with 1 door and 4 walls. That does not prohibit, however, for an employee or faculty member for choosing to carry if they want to in that space. In a primary or secondary education school sponsored event on campus. So this is where we'll have to work with our different entities to make sure that we understand where primary and secondary school students are on our campus at any given time. At any private functions held on our campus. So if someone would rent this facility, if someone would rent the Alumni Center, it would be excluded. In any area where federal or state law already prohibits firearms. In patient care or mental health counseling provided areas. In a high hazardous and animal laboratory, so that in the law is defined. And then finally, in on-campus residence halls, except common areas such as lounges, dining areas, and study areas. And then individuals who choose to carry on campus and live in a residence hall, we would be required to either provide a safe or a secure location in that residence hall to store those firearms. We have to provide 2 on the Morgantown campus, and then 1 in Kaiser and 1 in Beckley. WVU can charge a reasonable fee for the storage of those weapons. We can take disciplinary action against students or employees for violating concealed carry. And then obviously in those areas where it's prohibited, we are permitted to regulate the possession and check individuals for weapons. Any questions?
Scott Critchlow, Beverly. Travis, obviously, as you discussed, lots of decisions remain to be made, so you wouldn't have any kind of set answer to this. But do y'all have any sense of, in terms of the cost, how the year-by-year cost in the future will compare to, like, I mean, assuming the first year is going to be extra expensive by a considerable margin. But do you have any kind of sense about how much that will be higher versus how much this will cost to play out year after that?
Sure. Thank you for the question. Yeah, cost is definitely something that we are going to have to take serious, just as you said, because of how long either some of the security measures that are decided, or if we determine that we need extra UPD officers, that's obviously a cost that will have to be sustained for a number of years. We are hopeful that what you'll see amongst the higher ed institutions as a whole, as a system, is that the Higher Education Policy Commission, which is currently undertaking a review of the law and talking to the individual campuses, that we go together as a system and ask the legislature for an amount. And then each of those institutions would project what those costs are. It's really going to be up to the determination of what the subcommittee decides. Do we need signs on certain buildings? Do we need, whatever? So it's going to be a projection at this point, but we'll have to build in some of that long-term cost as well. But thanks for the question.
Hey, Dan Totske, Eberly College. You kind of just answered it, but that's a big laundry list of places where, and I'm just like glazed over. And maybe this is getting ahead of it, but is there a plan to basically, I'm like looking for a map of where it is or isn't, or kind of goes along with the signage that you were just talking about, but having some indication of these are areas where it's legal, these are areas where it's prohibited. So that, and will faculty and employees kind of get a primer of how to identify and how to handle situations where exclusions do or don't apply and what to do?
Yeah, that's my hope, is to put together some kind of some material, whether it be a map or whatever, laying out, okay, we know these places are determined by law where it's prohibited. We also know that within the law, maybe a building that houses certain things that we've determined as a campus, we shouldn't have them or whatever. We obviously have to stick to what the law allows us to do, but we have to take in all the considerations that our campuses are different, our buildings are different. And so I think there's going to be a lot of the institutions that look at that. So yes, we'll need to put together material that keeps you all up to date, 1, on the subcommittee, 2, if we have these type of conversations where the committee comes and talks to the various groups like SGA, faculty senate, staff council, et cetera, and then a primer on here's the material that we've put together, and then work with you all on understanding come July 1, what will be allowed and what will not be allowed.
Awesome. I appreciate it. And just one last question I think it was one of the last slides had said disciplinary action for employees or students. That, I feel like that was just sort of a line there, but is there any protocol or procedure for any non-affiliated person that might be in violation of the law or anything like that? So it's sort of said, this is what we'll do with faculty or employees, students. What if a non-WVU employee?
Yeah, so if someone is walking across our campus with open carry or
comes on into my office.
The law isn't specific to that. So in our subcommittee, we have a member of the general counsel's office who's helping us with contemplating what that means, how we would handle, how the UPD would respond, how others would respond. So that's sort of to be determined, because that'll go to other sections of West Virginia code, Are they brandishing, et cetera? So we'll have to contemplate that and make sure that officers and others are up to date on those provisions.
Excellent. Thanks.
Thank you.
Next person in line is online, Cindy Trickett-Shockey.
Yes, I had a very quick question. When looking through the slides, I was saying that there was not much of an educational portion on this about weapon safety. Are there plans to do that? I know if you teach about something, it's not as scary, and I'm wondering if that is in the plan.
Yes, I can address that. So that is already on the campus safety website. There are webinars and resources that UPD does. So we'll continue to message about that. And if there's any additional information we need to do, we'll do that as well. That's currently on the website.
Thank you.
Anybody online? Okay, thank you. Chris Haddix, Davis College. I got two questions and just clarifications for me. I think on one of the slides, I wasn't clear how this was worded, but two locations for safes, 2 residence halls or something along those lines.
Yes, so the law specifically says that each campus, each college or university has to provide if they can either provide safes to the students, or they can choose one location for a secure location to store the weapons. However, we, because of our size, because of the Evansdale versus downtown campus, we have to provide 2 separate locations.
So only 2. I guess why just 2? I mean, why not in every
That's-
place where
yeah,
students are living? All right.
We could provide more if
You
we
can-
choose to.
okay.
The law just says 2.
Okay, well, that's kind of silly. I hope we do more. So I don't know. I don't carry a gun, so I don't know any of these questions. But is concealed carry on the body, in a bag, in a book bag that can get tossed on a desk? You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah,
Okay, it's anywhere.
yeah, as long as it's concealed, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Kendra Unger, School of Medicine. I saw on your list that there are some areas that are prohibited for this carry. For example, any clinics, which is part of my concern. So I have students who come and go and, these things. So if now it is an open concealed carry that's allowed, what are we going to do to ensure the safety of the folks working in the prohibited areas? Because right now we don't have metal detectors. We don't even have security who have firearms. We have security who have tasers, which has been a concern of mine for a long time. So how are we going to ensure the safety of the folks in the prohibited areas?
Well, that's to be determined. We're going to have to work through as a committee to decide what are the type of adequate security measures that we need in place. That could be a variety of things, but that will ultimately be up to the committee as a whole to decide, to then recommend to the steering committee to decide for campus. So it's definitely something we have to take into account. And I think health sciences in our initial discussion is certainly an area that we need to take a careful look at between those patient care areas, mental health counseling, and where the academic curriculum is held, because there's a lot of back and forth that isn't as seamless as some people would think. So that's definitely an area we need to focus on.
Travis,
Hey,
Jason
Jason.
Gross,
Yeah.
Statler College. Just one of the bullet points was about K through 12 outreach. And are there only going to be certain places we can do K through 12 outreach, or can we say on this day we have K through 12 outreach? Just clarify that.
Yeah, so it's expressed in the legislation that areas where those type of students should be. Now, it says school-sponsored event, so it's not just, an 18-year-old coming on campus and touring. But where those individuals are, you can prohibit. So we're going to have to work with our different units on where a class from Berkeley Springs High School is touring today, and we make sure that I guess they're protected or they're in certain areas that where storage isn't. So, yeah.
Like, we throw pumpkins off the engineering building every year, you can say on this day.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's outside. I think it would be hard to figure out how to limit that, but it's certainly something we could discuss and try to figure out.
Hello, Tina Faber, School of Social Work, Everly College.
Sorry.
Sorry, didn't know if you heard me. So we recently had a presentation to our faculty at our faculty meeting from the Morgantown Police Department, kind of preparing us for this. And one of the things that was brought up was the security. And they were very, very great in saying, you know, we will come do a security review and give you suggestions on things that you might need, such as panic buttons, those kinds of things. The issue that we face is that at this time, that cost would be borne by our unit. And so I know this may be a little preemptive, but I would just encourage you to think about the costs of safety measures and things like panic buttons and who might be responsible for that kind of during this financial crisis.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. And that's definitely something that we're considering. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, all three of you, for coming. Obviously, it's a big concern. And one of the things we've been concerned about, which I think you addressed, is that this is going to happen in the middle of a summer session. So we very much hope that we can have things in place for the campus community, for our faculty who are teaching on campus in summer. So thank you. Just as a reminder, Diana Davis is spearheading Faculty Senate representation on these committees. She's on both the steering committee and on Travis's campus carry committee. If you have other concerns as they arise, please email her. She didn't know I was going to say that, so send her lots and lots of emails. And I encourage you to reach out to your constituents and ask what their concerns and the needs they anticipate with this. I mean, this is so new for all of us. I think it may be hard to anticipate what we may need. And I know we've done some brainstorming. I encourage you to do that in your own location and send those things, those questions or concerns forward so Diana can feed them in to the committee's process. Okay, our next report is from the Curriculum Committee, Cindy Trickett-Shockey, and I believe she's online.
I sure am. I'm following my COVID protocol and I am still home. So I won't spread my germs.
Thank you.
But I do have some things that I need to bring before the group. I would like to seek approval for 3 different areas. The first one being for the exercise psychology program. It's a new program that has been approved by the committee. I did receive some questions about some of the courses that were not found that were stated on for this program. They are from what I can see, they are in the pipeline for approval. The committee works diligently to be sure that all the courses that are going to be covered for new programming is already approved and that, or if it's in the pipeline for that. So for the one for exercise psychology, we are definitely have approved that and are seeking approval from this group. The second group of things that I would like to add to this amendment or to this resolution for approval are the 59 new courses that are found in Annex 1 and the course changes, 26 course changes that are found in Annex 2. So I'm seeking approval for these.
Very well. Thank you, Cindy. We'll bundle the new program, the new courses report and courses change
Frankie,
reports.
may I ask
I'm getting to that into a single votable item. Any questions at all about the new program courses or course changes?
a procedural question because I didn't bring my full agenda with me. Are the course eliminations included in this or are those separate?
That's next.
Okay, then I'll pause.
They're included, they are not included for vote. They're included for information.
Oh, that's for information only.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay then.
Any other questions, discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving Annex 1, Annex 2, and the new program, please raise your hands. Thank you. Please lower your hands. Any opposed? One opposed online, one opposed in the room. Thank you. The motion carries and the new items are approved.
The only final thing is to bring up for their information for people's review for the 28 courses that were deleted for the month of October. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cindy. Next, a report from Mary Beth Angeline, Chair of General Education Foundations Committee.
Good afternoon. So we did make a motion that was unanimously approved to delay the approval of new courses until we have our new guidelines. We will investigate if somebody has an emergency that they want passed, we will look at it. The criteria that we are looking at are the frequency with which courses are taught. If they are inactive, will they need to reapply for GEF approval? The length of the probationary period and the notifications that will be sent to the schools and the departments. Students have asked for information about when the courses are taught, like spring, fall, even odd years. It helps them make decisions on whether or not they want to take them because they may not be able to DF repeat. Whether or not major restricted courses should be permitted on the GEF. If so, what percentage of the seats should be open to all students? Investigate using cross-listing, so your majors could be reserved seats and the rest would be open. The next one is limiting departments to only one area, GEF area, which would eliminate students from being able to take their GEFs in one department, more than one in the department. And we've set a deadline of February to have this all figured out. So with our December meeting, we hope to have a preliminary set of criteria to present in the January meeting, and then we will refine it and hopefully have final approval in February so that courses can be approved for fall. And if anybody has any questions or concerns or suggestions, please send them to me, Mary Beth Angeline, or anybody on the committee, and we will definitely discuss them. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Yes, please.
I teach in an interdisciplinary unit.
Just
in
state your name and
Everly.
your college,
Yeah,
please.
Kelly
Thank
Watson
you.
at Business and Gender Studies in Everly. As an interdisciplinary unit, saying that we can only contribute to GEFs in one spot sort of rubs us the wrong way. Is there consideration of specifically interdisciplinary spaces? Okay, yeah, because I think that could be difficult for certain units that participate across different disciplines and different programs.
Did you all hear Mary Beth's response to that?
So everything's under consideration. So there's obviously lots of, like, that's a unique situation. There's a lot of unique situations, and we don't want to close the box so tight that you can't have anything outside of there. But we are really trying to get the number of courses to be manageable and to be equitable.
I do have one quick question, Mary Beth. You said you were planning to bring the item to the Senate in of the preliminary or of the final recommended set in February. You're thinking you'll bring the list of courses you're recommending based on that list as well? It might
No.
be helpful for the senators to know the impact of what those criteria would have on the current set of
So
courses.
we can post that, but so we have a list of the courses. There's like, I don't know, a list of 400 and there's notations on them, like hasn't been taught since, I think there's a course on there since 2011. So these courses, the notations are on there. We've been working on them. So we can, when we get that finalized and we highlighted the ones that it would impact, we can do that and share that information of the courses that some of them are like red, like this would never qualify under multiple criteria. Some are yellow, like this has to be fixed. For example, some of them haven't been offered in 3-4 years. That can't happen. So that would be something that we would allow the department to fix and say, well, okay, we will offer it once every other year. Say, okay, so you get time to do that. So we can publish the list if that would be amicable to everybody.
I think that would be very helpful, even with the preliminary list.
Okay.
If you all have that ready, and you could just attach as an annex or a link to, we can
In
put it on the website, whatever works for you.
January, when we get it figured out. Yeah, it was a preliminary for our preliminary. So if Corey has the list for curriculum, maybe he could put the link there for the GEF so that we can put the link there and everybody can see it and make comments.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so do they have to be cut?
Lisa, would you mind, do you want to? Thank you.
Lisa DeBartolomeo, Everly College of Arts and Sciences. I was just asking Mary Beth to note the fact that all of the units cut by academic transformation will also have to cut all of the courses that now exist in the Gen Ed. So that represents a significant decrease in courses available for students to choose from.
Thank you for bringing that forward.
That may be more difficult, a little bit more difficult to identify. Some we know, some we don't know for sure, because people that leave may have specialties we're not sure about. I mean, departments we know. So, but it would be helpful for everybody to look at the list to let us know where there will be issues. Anybody else have any questions?
Thank you. Next is the report from Committee on Committees, and Chair Leslie Cottrell's traveling, and so Diana Davis is going to deliver her report.
So the Committee on Committees has made some changes and additions and updates of a variety of committees that have been presented in the annex. And the committee has approved these changes and would like to move for full Senate approval.
So any questions or discussions about the revised committee rosters? All those in favor of approving the revised committee rosters, please raise your hand. Thank you. Please lower your hands. Online, if you could please lower your hands. Thank you. Any opposed? Thank you. The revised roster is approved. Next is our report from our representative to state government, Eloise Elliott.
Thank you. I do have a longer report today. I usually don't have a report, so, but as my role here as representative, you
You
can't hear
get
me?
closer to the mic.
How about this?
That's much.
In my role as the WVU representative to state government, as I mentioned earlier, I'm also the representative from WVU on the ACF, which is the Advisory Council of Faculty. And I'm also serving as chair this year on that council. We had our retreat, our yearly retreat this past weekend on Friday and Saturday at Stonewall Resort, which wasn't bad. But we had 17 of 22 members present. So remember that these positions are required in West Virginia State Code, and that all universities, institutions elect one person to be represented on the ACF. So, so I asked the following speakers to present at the retreat to help give us some background information for our discussions. Travis Mullahan, who just heard, he agreed to discuss possible legislation with us. Madison Santmeyer, who is our WVU student body president, and Walker Tatum, who is the Marshall University student body president. They're both the chair and vice chair of the Advisory Council of Students. So they came and talked to us about their concerns, what the student concerns are. Matt Turner, who is the executive vice chancellor for administration in the HEPC, and Corey Dennison, the vice chancellor for academic affairs in HEPC, were both there to discuss a variety of issues. After the second day, throughout this process, we had many discussions about many different things. And, you know, as you can imagine, community colleges, four-year colleges have different concerns, but we talk about all those as a group, as a ACF representative, what are our concerns? So some of them are surprisingly the same. Recruitment and retention, of course, is one, and we had much discussion about this, and it's centered around adult learners and mapping credentials to workforce needs and so forth, as you might imagine, and also talent pipelines related to micro-credentialing and certificates of value. Another big concern is lack of shared governance in making critical faculty decisions, and that's happening in all of the institutions in one way or the other. Another focus area, particularly with HEPC, is open educational resources, the OER initiative that they have going on. And one thing they did say that I thought you might want to know is their goal that is in 4 years that students who take gen ed classes will not be required to have any resources. So they want that to happen in 4 years. So also they're providing more funds for faculty to develop these resources, and they're developing a statewide repository of resources. So there'll be more resources for everyone to use. So I'm sure, I know we have that leadership here at the university, but that's going to be a focus of HEPC for sure. Another focus for us, of course, is AI and how we can better educate faculty on best practices. So they also, HEPC also is really trying to offer webinars and so forth to help faculty with that. So well, not really related to that, but another issue is tenure issues at the community colleges. Most of the community colleges now do not even offer tenure. And so they want, although they can, but they don't. And so the community colleges are very concerned about that. Declining library resources and impact on student success was another issue brought forward by more than one member. And support for student welfare and mental health. And this is one of the issues that the student organization brought up in the Green Bandana Project, which is part of House Bill 2182. So they asked for help with that. I will mention last, although it shouldn't be last on the list, is the Campus Carry implementation strategies. And that was the main reason Matt Turner was there to speak to the group. And he would like, he asked everyone there to go back to their faculty, and he wanted everyone to respond to what questions do you have about the implementation of Campus Carry. I know we are working diligently here. We just heard what Corey and Sharon and Travis are working on, and Marshall is doing a good job with this too, but a lot of the other institutions aren't really even started with this yet. And so they're talking about how we're going to bring these new leaders together. And I'm sure Corey and Sharon and Travis, you'll be taking a lead role in that, in helping other people to understand and to get ideas on how they might implement the Campus Carry and everything that has to happen. So I'm asking you if you have questions, and I know that you just asked for those too as well, right? Frankie, didn't you just a few minutes ago, that if anyone had questions that you could pass on. But if there's anything you would like for me beyond what our team is doing to pass on to Matt Turner at HEPC, I need you to send those to me by November 8th, which is Wednesday. I'm supposed to have those to him by Friday. And lastly, I just want to say about some of the things we agreed on that we needed to be cognizant of related to legislative actions and things we need to watch closely and take collective action quickly if they arise. The main things, and we have the guru right here in the room with us, Travis, who's I'm sure is going to speak to us again as time gets closer, probably in January. But as a group, as an ACF group, we talked a lot more about DEI and related academic freedom issues and what could potentially come up. And Travis helped shed some light on that, as well as Corey Dennison. Also, the tenure in West Virginia, the future of tenure in West Virginia institutions of higher education, not just the community colleges, but us, four-year institutions. Another one, I think Travis just mentioned, the PEI raising premiums, and if that is something that may come up in the legislature, particularly, as he mentioned, we're hoping for appropriation to help the institutions with implementation, and see if that happens. And then one issue that the students were really anxious for us to get involved in is the Hunger Free Campus Act that was Senate Bill 578 last year. And it eventually failed in the Finance Committee, and it requires HEPC to establish a grant program to address food insecurities among high school or higher education students at all the institutions. And so it failed. I think it's because the price tag on it was too high. So they're going to fight for that again. So just so you can keep that on your radar screen. So that's my report.
Thank you, Eloise.
Any questions?
I don't know. Anybody have any questions for Eloise? Eloise, can you say a little bit more about the thing about general education courses, students? I didn't understand that at all, and I saw a couple of other people's faces kind of scrunch up.
Well, I thought some of you might be interested in that, so I made sure I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget to say that. But as Corley talked from the HEP standpoint about the need for us to get more involved in the open educational resources that they're trying to to implement in all the universities, that he says that their goal is in 4 years that no resources will be required of students in all gen ed courses, which means they would not have to buy any books in all the gen ed courses. So they would have to either use resources in this repository that they're putting together that other faculty have developed, or use some kind of resources that would be free.
Okay.
The provost office, someone in the provost's office could probably speak more directly to that, but it was kind of new to me, actually. You don't want to, well, keep your ears open for that. I don't know.
I would just comment that before they make that leap, that they get discipline-specific feedback. 'Cause I know I've gone into some OER resources hoping to make some progress on that, and there's just very little to draw on. And perhaps that's getting better, but I think there's some people in this room who in their particular disciplines might be able to provide some feedback on what's needed to build those resources if we're going to get there.
I think that's part of their plan, because he said that now they're providing more funding for faculty to apply for those funds to develop a resource for a particular class. And then they would be allowed then to be in this repository that other people could use. So I think the reason they're focusing on the gen ed classes is because, you know, if you're teaching American history, probably the same course offered somewhere else could use the same resource.
Thank you. I think you've gotten our attention. And I also do want to say, we've already started having conversations with Travis about planning for the new legislative session. He's tentatively on our agenda for January, pending what else unfolds between now and then to give us some updates on what may be coming. Okay, thank you. I understand Stan has no report from Board of Governors. There is a meeting next week, and so I suspect in December he will have quite a report. With that, is there any new business?
I promise it's not new business. Scott Critchley, Everly. I just wanted to make one announcement in case people hadn't seen the news. Came out, I think, about a week ago. Carnegie has announced that they're going to change the R1 rating for the 2025 cycle. And I know already some people in this room were kind of disappointed with the changes that happened in the late 2010s. The changes for 2025 are drastic. It's moving down to 2 items, and one of those being PhD production in certain research-oriented fields, one being how much the university spends on research. The number of PhDs that will have to be produced is only 70. So the number of R1s is going to surge. And to the extent that anybody here works in a college that really prioritizes that rating, or in a university which kind of centers it in terms of how we view ourselves as a research university, reducing it to 70 when I think we produce close to 200 per year. Whatever the next leadership team makes of R1, because this happens in 2025. Just keep that on, front and center for anything in your college tied to evaluations of research, because it's a profound change in the nature of that measure.
Thank you for bringing that forward, Scott. And we'll keep an eye out and see when the appropriate time is to get Fred and May to come and give us an overview of that, and maybe right after the first of the year to talk about what he knows so far. He mentioned that back a few weeks ago, and then now it's coming out more broadly. So I'm glad you brought that up. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, good afternoon, Eugenia Peña Jeftohef, Davis College. I just have a proposal. I would like to propose a formation of a committee to analyze the information of what just happened. I mean, I'm talking about the RIFs and other changes and the consequences to the programs, and what about the faculty that are here. The Provost Office has recommended I would say very reasonable ways of changing, for example, the teaching, but I don't worry about that. It's like I said, very reasonable. I worry about how it's going to be implemented, for example. So what's going to happen with the faculty that are left, and the consequence of the programs. And I think we should also think about having open discussions about the situation, what happened, what is happening, and kind of to know what we could do if a situation similar to the ones that we had just now happens again, which actually is quite possible. So that's the type of committee I would say that I would like to see formed if possible.
So if you would like to craft something and send it to us to work on, I mean, I think there may be some pieces of that we can work on. I think impacts in particular programs are going to be very program specific, so I'm not sure how much a Senate committee could do relative to that. But I think we need to see more specifically about what
Yes.
you're talking about.
And for example, you talk about some
And there may be an
information-
existing committee that could work on that as well.
Could be,
depending on-
but I think this is so sui generis that maybe would be something very specific. So, and you ask about, for example, the information that the Provost's office has, that they're going to present first to the Board of Governors, that type of information to look at. And if we think about impact on programs, we are here representing almost all the programs. So I think that we can get information from our senators to this committee, because I definitely worry about the implementation of recommendations that have been given.
So please draft something up and send it
Thank
to
you.
me, and we'll see what we can do with it. I certainly appreciate the concern. I think we all share the concern of what's going to happen next in our programs. And with and to our faculty as we try to move forward and trying to figure out how to do that with way less people. So thank you. Yes, Dan.
Hey, Dan Totsky at Eberly College. I won't take too long, I promise, but famous last words. So I think that with that kind of a committee, that would be great to sort of have the faculty perspective on sort of the process that's happened. I meant to ask this earlier with sort of the transformation process and the budget or the state of the budget. I know it sounds like in chairs meetings and otherwise there's been sort of updates on where we're at, how much more we still need. I think it'd be really helpful in faculty senate meetings if we could have as part of a presentation to us or just an update of sort of where we're at. Sort of, you know, maybe we get a big thermometer of like where the price is at, like a fundraiser, but it's like not fun at all. But just some sort of update of here's where we're at, here's what's been done, and sort of how much more we have to go given what we've done so far. Thanks.
There has been a commitment to that, and I'm seeing heads nod. We had asked for a total estimated or calculated savings of faculty reduction once it was complete, to include voluntary resignations and retirements that were generated through the process. So I'm believing you all will follow through with what you've committed to on that. And I think there's another piece it sounds like you're asking for of the total that we needed, where we are with that. And I think some of the things, if I'm not mistaken, that you all are going to present to BOG next week that then are going to be announced to us are going to address some of that gap that we've been worried about. Is that correct? Okay. So thank you for bringing that up and helping it bubble up to the surface again. Oh, that was a fake. That was like when a student stretches in class and you think they've got a question. Okay, all right. Any more comments? Any new business? Great, thank you all. And is there a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Dan. A second? Thank you. We're adjourned. See you in December.